Good morning. My name is Sarah and I work with the Living Archives Project where we are collecting stories of how COVID-19 impacted various communities in Charlotte, Mecklenburg County. Today is Friday, June 16th. I can't believe it. It's summer. And I have the pleasure of hanging out with Nina today. Would you introduce yourself, Nina?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. My name is Nina. I am Vietnamese. I have long black hair to my, underneath my breast. I am wearing a black two-piece satin suit. I'm not sure if I said this already, but I'm Vietnamese. I am very expressive when it comes to my body language and when I speak.
Yeah, I love it. And you have a lovely smile.
Thank you.
And personally, I love your necklace that you're wearing.
Thank you. I am wearing a gold necklace, Buddha necklace with a jade charm.
Okay.
And then 2 gold bangles.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Nina. So, Nina, tell me, how long have you been in the Charlotte, Mecklenburg area?
Yeah, so I came here, moved here in 2016. So that would be roughly 7 to 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. And what brought you here?
Work brought me here.
Okay.
Yes, and also just wanting to spread my wings. My entire family lives in Irmo, South Carolina, so a very baby town, and I am the black sheep of the family who moved out first. Although it's down the street, but it does feel completely different. Bigger city than what we came from.
How far is your hometown from here?
About an hour and 45 minutes.
Hour and 45,
Yeah.
okay. That's awesome. So, small town. How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have one older sister,
Okay.
Tina. She is 5 years older than me, and then I have a couple of stepsisters and brothers as well.
Awesome. I love that. Tina and Nina.
Yes.
That's awesome.
It was actually, my mom didn't know what to name me,
Okay.
so I came out and she was like, Nina, and I was like, perfect, I guess.
That's great. And that works.
And it works.
Oh man, that's so great. And so you moved here for a job. So what do you do?
So when I first moved here, I was working for a nonprofit organization.
Okay.
I was very driven to be a creative director. That is just where my mind was at. But knowing the creative director umbrella got hyper-focused into visual directing. So I'm very heavy into production. So I worked for a fashion company. They're more luxury streetwear. So I led their studio team for 6 years. And then now I'm with the Hornets and I lead their major campaigns like uniform releases and things like that.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about what your role is, because I like when you talk about uniform releases, like, what does that mean? What do you do with that?
Yeah, so my everyday role would be similar as yours, like project management.
Okay.
But for specific campaigns and projects that we lead throughout the season, there's an opportunity like the uniform release where we have a storyline, we release a uniform that the players will wear every year, and from start to finish I will pretty much take the storyline, make it into a visual art piece like a video or editorial pictures that we would commercialize and promote throughout like social media, emails, other media outlets, and then we have a full release. So it's from start to finish.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And do you like working with the Hornets?
I do. It's a really great hub of people, so I'm very thankful to be able to be a part. Yeah.
And you've been there for how long?
This will be my 3rd season, so 2.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, well, we can come back to that. So tell me a little bit about your personal life. What do you enjoy doing?
Yeah, so one of the other pieces why I love where I'm at right now solely in life is because there is a strong work-life balance. now, which I struggled with that during the pandemic. So at the current stage, I'm able to have this outlet at work where it has felt of substance, because the things that I do, it's being publicized in a different way that I've ever experienced. And then for my personal life, I'm able to have this free time to be able to be intentional with how I use it. So I've been cooking more. I've been really diving into that. I've been able to sit with myself, kind of hear my thoughts a little bit better. And with scheduling, I'm able to kind of curate it the way that I want to. So, yeah.
So you have a lot of freedom, it sounds
I
like.
do. I have a lot of peace.
Okay.
And that is very different, because within production it's very hectic. It's very speedy. It's very quick turnaround. Hot fires will come up, things like that. So now, although sometimes it does get busy, I do feel peaceful at the end of the day, where I'm getting to go home and feeling the energy of my house rather than feeling the hecticness of having to continue to work and work through the night and things like that. Of course, we'll have some of those nights, but they're less now than before.
Yeah. Wow, so tell me, how did you create this, I guess, this sense of living in peace, and how did that infiltrate your work and work-home life balance?
Yeah, it was, I definitely think it didn't just start during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I think that it was something that I've always wanted but never really know how to achieve. And during the pandemic, because we were forced to be at home and work from home, and if you had roommates or if you were living with someone, for myself, I just met a significant other. So him and I were working at home, and both of us kind of had for me, it was a 360 job, because it was 24/7 all the time. For him, I was able to kind of see, him being able to log off and being flexible and things like that. So kind of seeing that happen in real life allowed me to understand that it was something that was tangible. Because growing up, I would see my parents, which I'm first generation, so they would always work all the time. They'll come home, they'll cook, they'll clean, and then they'll go to sleep. And it was just kind of like copy and paste. So the work ethic side on my end, I was like, okay, this is what I need to do to be successful. And kind of in the pandemic realm, with my significant other, I was able to see that there was a space where you can stop and enjoy life. So I decided to leave my job. And then I decided to kind of build my confidence back up.
Okay.
And it wasn't that I was lacking confidence in my previous role, but it was more so because everything was so hectic and I couldn't hear my voice and I couldn't even hear my own thoughts, because there was so much happening during, in the media, at work, because we still had to keep things going. And with being the lead there, I had to restructure the entire process to make sure that my team is safe and the company was safe, being able to kind of take product in and out and keep having this fresh media look, because of course everybody was on their phone. So if we stopped, then we're no longer relevant. But I just felt like that was not that it was too much, but it just wasn't something that I felt was more important than being able to be as confident as I used to, being able to hear my voice and things. So I kind of took my own liberty to say, I think it's my time. So I decided to leave, but we're still a very great family, love them. But for me, during the 6 month that I did decide to kind of have my own time, I utilized that time and was able to, get up in the morning, hot cup of water. I'm a hot water girl. And I just kind of sat with myself and started kind of talking to myself more and being able to kind of build myself back up. And then I got a little nervous when savings kind of went down low, right? Because I was during that time, I was also kind of rebuilding myself, my resume, things like that, to make sure that the next step, I'm being intentional. What is the organization that I really want to be a part of? I also didn't put limitations around it too, because for the last 10 years before then, I knew I wanted to be in fashion. I knew that I wanted to be a visual director. Like I just knew, and I said it every single day. And I achieved that, but then I felt like something was missing. So then I just put my pull out on everything, and whether that was fashion, culinary, or sports, or event presentation, anything and everything. And the first string that bit was sports, which I know nothing about sports.
Yeah.
But I was very excited to just have a new environment and new circumstances to kind of come in on, and being able to take what I did know and my expertise in that realm and enhance something that they've never really experienced before. So this role was open up that didn't exist, simply because I messaged the director on LinkedIn, which is now one of my really great friends. And I'm there, and I'm happy, and I'm able to kind of just breathe on this side. Yeah.
That's so great, Nina.
Yeah.
I think, wow. I think for some it could take a lifetime to achieve what you've achieved.
Yeah.
And that's amazing and inspiring.
It was very scary, because towards the end, it was just like, you would think that all the work that you've put in over the years is able to kind of speak volumes when it comes to a resume or a LinkedIn page or anything that the person can't physically talk to you. But what I've realized is it's much more difficult to try to put yourself on one page, or because you're so diverse and you might be great at so many things, but they might not make sense together. So during that time, it was very special for me because I came from the cosmetology realm. So customer service, managing, things like that. Also, helping out with the salon. I usually am the only one that is fluent in English while I'm translating for my aunts and my uncles and my mom. So just kind of taking those skill sets from each place and things that I've been through in my life, I was able to kind of say, although I didn't go to school, because I didn't go to university, that was my university. So I did feel qualified. I felt more than qualified that I'm able to do this specific job that maybe somebody had went to school for, because I've put so much time and so much effort, and there was so many sleepless nights that when it got down to it and you're applying to all these jobs, because I feel like I probably applied to more than like 150 jobs and only one or two bit, it was discouraging. So the confidence build that I did ahead of time, it kind of went down during the applying process.
Yeah.
Because nobody was hiring, or if they were hiring, it was very specific. So I am very thankful that I was able to kind of go through that hump and now be with the organization that I am proud of. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself here for an extended period of time, or you just don't know?
So I would like to say yes, but I also would like to keep the door somewhat cracked, just because before the pandemic, when I just had my mind so set on this vision of life that I had for myself. Like, I just really saw myself international, and I just really saw myself doing these and experiencing culture in a different way. Just coming from South Carolina and North Carolina, like, I want to be able to step out my door and feel the breeze and feel like, wow, I've accomplished this because I've uprooted and allowed to put myself here. Throughout the pandemic, I realized that I really had to make sure that I understood what success meant. And for me, before, success meant to be successful as the farthest distance from where I grew up. So if that was Europe, if that was Asia, if that was wherever, as far as I can go from South Carolina was what was successful for me. And I know that sounds wild, but it's more of like the companies that I would work for or who I would be in those areas. I felt like that was achievable because my family don't travel often. They don't go international. And then it was just a dream of mine to be able to experience something new or untouchable from what my lifeline has done. Now, I have a great support system. I have a great career that I love that also makes me feel successful in a sense because I'm learning, but I'm also achieving certain things there. And then I'm building a community here that allows me to bloom my side business and kind of be myself more. So it's definitely a tit for tat because I don't want to let the little Nina die, the young Nina die, like her dreams. But I feel like as you grow older, success and dream takes a shift, but that doesn't mean that you can't achieve them. So with being in sports, we have a in season and we have an off season. So I'm thinking to be able to kind of meet myself halfway and not feel like I'm giving up. Is it once a month out of the year I'm traveling somewhere to be able to kind of get those experiences without doing the full-blown commitment of moving internationally? So I'm still trying to figure it out, but I'm trying to write my own story and kind of curate my life the way that makes me feel like I'm achieving what I want in the beginning, because those core morals is kind of what got me here. So I don't want to let them go, and I don't want to feel like I gave up because I went so far to get here. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So let's say you had an opportunity to just travel.
Yes.
Where would you go first?
I just feel like I would go like this.
I love it.
I would just point on the map and just
go.
And just go.
Explore.
And just explore. Yes, like anywhere and everywhere. Even if it's scary, if it's great. I just feel like there's certain freedoms that you just feel from any of the experience that you've done. Like if you just get dropped in a jungle, okay, you have to figure it out, but it's new and you don't have cell service. You don't have any of these things that is the norm. And I really think that that's what I want to experience is any experiences that I haven't been able to yet. Yeah.
I love that. Would you say that season that you took a break to kind of work on yourself and just, would you say that happened during COVID or was that, it did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was scary.
Yeah.
Because I left the company. So it wasn't like you could file for unemployment. You could, it was definitely a risk, a high risk at that. And I didn't tell many people. I didn't tell my family. I didn't want them to worry. I felt confident that I was able to do this and be financially stable in the bare minimum sense. So it wasn't living luxury. It wasn't living lavish. It was really more so, hey, what is the bare minimum that you need to do to kind of get your sanity back? And I had so many friends that the pandemic was really hard on them. But I'm a huge introvert. So the pandemic was really great for me. Of course, they had the ups and downs and the scares and, having to be selective and careful with where you went, I think was big for me. And even now, I think I'm a lot more cautious, or I know that I'm a lot more cautious when it comes to specific buildings or places because I never want to feel like I don't belong. And growing up, I was in my class, like even elementary school, I was the only Asian female. So kind of feeling left out or alone was something that I've always kind of felt. But of course, I've met my friends and teachers were great and things like that. But I still always, when you look around, it wasn't like anyone that looked like me, or could understand certain things. And even if it was, another Asian student, 10 out of 10 times, I'm probably the only Vietnamese individual in there. So kind of that sense kind of heightened a little bit. And I just think that I'm more aware now. But of course, with any fears that came from COVID, it's to be able to identify them and then grow from them. So I'm just being a lot more intentional, but it doesn't mean that I'm fearful of going into places, because I know that, I have the right to be in there and stuff. But it's just, if the emotion and energy isn't what I would like to receive, I think I'm being more intentional with that, like what I'm consuming. So if I feel like I'm not supposed to be here or left out or just these things, like I would go into a safe space and, not allow that to happen.
I'm really interested to hear a few incredible people that I've had the opportunity to chat with. They talked about there was a period of time where there was a lot of racism towards the Asian community, especially around COVID. And people called it something like China flu or something like that. And it was they felt very fearful for their families and themselves. Did you experience any of that?
I didn't experience it firsthand. I felt like, in my mind, I live in this like rainbows and butterflies and unicorns, right? Like I was telling you, like, although I'm more cautious, I always feel like I'm able to walk in somewhere. Where it got heightened is the fear of everyone else for me. So,
Interesting.
So, I met my significant other right before the pandemic, and he is Caucasian. So he was more so very protective and made sure that the places that we did go, or things like that, I wouldn't feel that in return. For me, I wasn't more so scared for myself, but I was more scared for my family, because I can't control those things that happen and I'm not there, So I think in my mind, I was fearless, because I'm like, I can go anywhere. I can do whatever I want, like regardless of what's happening. But then it kind of became real life when other people were like, because it was also a time where I was trying new things too. So although we were, taking takeout, it was kind of like, I want to try this place whenever the pandemic is over. I want to try this place when the pandemic is over. And sometimes it was just like, I don't think we should, or I'm not sure if you're welcomed, or just kind of small things like that. And it wasn't in a harm sense, but it was very like a protective sense, because it wasn't that maybe that company or that owner didn't like Asian individual, it might be the people that it went there that might make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So any sense of uncomfortability, I was kind of sheltered in a sense. But for my family, we have nail businesses in South Carolina.
Okay.
So those were getting targeted, and just any type of Asian groups, whether it's churches or nail business or restaurants or any of those things. I was more so fearful of something happening, bad timing or being targeted and things, because it wasn't the first time that we've been targeted before. Yeah, like on a personal sense.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
It's so overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. You talked about being afraid whether or not your family's salons will be targeted. Were they during that season, or were they okay?
Yeah, so they were okay. Thankfully.
Yeah.
But what was fearful was just history happening again. So when I was working there, I want to say I was maybe like 17, 18, there was someone who was going around and just setting tires on fire and throwing it under, or, throwing it under a truck or a business with so we got caught in that. So when everything was happening again, and although I don't think that it was a racist sense, they were just kind of going through and just doing it in the city. But just the idea of it happening again, and how we had to start back up and, all those things, I think it just kind of flashed back. Less on a sense of being harmed. It was more so financially too. Because nail businesses, sure, you had your core people maybe coming because they felt comfortable in doing so, but it was also, the family having to be in the front lines working just because they had to make ends meet. And it was so close quarters during COVID. We were thankful for the clients that came in, but we were also kind of fearful for ourselves. And my family are rock stars. I'm first generation, so they came over in their teens and early 20s, and they're just this COVID-19 can't hurt me, I've been through more, I've been through everything. They were just rock stars during there, but you could tell that they had to be, because that's all they knew.
Yeah.
Is to show up and be present, because that's all they knew. They couldn't sit back and figure it out. And, things were happening. Bills were there. Foot traffic wasn't as fast. Workers, the individuals, the nail technicians and things like that. It was tough. So being able to know English, I was able to kind of help them with the unemployment side and, set individuals up. So during that time, it was about myself and inner, because I know I shared that earlier, but it was really more so too, I would say 50-50, making sure that the family and family friends of our community was able to have this government support, which is the unemployment, because there was a section in time where nail salons couldn't open, and they have kids, and I'm someone's kid. So it was kind of I had to make sure that I showed up for the individuals that helped me kind of be who I am today. Yeah, because you can't look inner and then forget about everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you show up?
It was a lot of computer
Okay.
filing. It was a lot of phone calls. What's your social security number? Let me plug it in so that you can get unemployment, so that we can file it, so that, they were able to be supported in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and be that translator to make them feel safe too. Because no one knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things where it's just like, oh, you can file for unemployment. And everybody got excited and happy because it's somewhat of a stability. But they also didn't understand what that meant. So being able to kind of walk them through that process, having them feel comfortable and understanding like, hey, this is money that they're giving you to stay afloat, to take care of yourself and your family. And you don't have to pay it back. Because I think that's all you know, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, hey, can I borrow $20? I'll pay you back. Mm-hmm. And that's all they know. It has never been a reciprocation where someone just freely said, hey, here's $20. Mm-hmm. So I think that concept alone, although it was a positive one, it was also scary because something that can be given to you can also be taken away. Mm-hmm. And even whenever the salons opened back up, we didn't know if clientels were going to come in. And they slowly came back in, but still even then, you're now off unemployment. And now you're trying to build your clientele again, having people trust, that you're safe, and that also you trust them that they're safe, because there was individuals that didn't want to wear a mask and gave a hard time if you asked them to. So, but it was tough because you had to make an income. Mm-hmm. So you kind of jeopardize your morals a little bit and allow them to come into the space because you needed that. Mm-hmm. I think that there was a lot of sacrifices that happened, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what?
Health. Because you needed that client, right?
Yeah.
You had to put your fears aside, even just going to the grocery store, even taking a walk outside during the very beginning of the pandemic, where they say, hey, stay in close quarters for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's it. You just stay there and it's okay. If you have a balcony, beautiful. If you don't, you're just inside.
Yeah.
Then people feel comfortable with walking around their neighborhood. But even then, it's like, oh, did you know that your breath travels 10 feet behind you and X, Y, and Z, and there's all these diagrams and graphics and things like that came out. So when you see someone walking, you're like, okay, I'm gonna walk on this side. Mm-hmm. But if somebody runs past you, you're like, let me hold my breath. Mm-hmm. And it was just those triggers that are in your mind sometimes. And even now too, like getting on the plane, and you see people without a mask on, it's kind of scary. Mm-hmm. But then you think about it when you're in a room, that's kind of scary. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you have to kind of retrain your mind again to find that peace and freedom that we were talking about.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you feel comfortable with?
Yeah.
And it's very interesting because during the pandemic, when you had your mask on, it felt like your lungs were kind of adapting to it. It was hard at first, but then your lungs were adapting to it and it was okay. But now, when we don't really wear it regularly, and then you go on the plane and you wear it for 3 hours and you get off and you're just like,
I know, it's hard.
It's hard. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting how your body adapts to things, because it's your body, but it's also your mind, and it's just how you feel about certain things, what is appropriate, what is not. Yeah. So you just kind of make your own guidelines. Yeah. But I do love that we're able to respect other people throughout this. Mm-hmm. Respecting individuals that now when you see a mask, I'm sure ignorance would be like, oh no, they probably have COVID. But also there is that other 50% that's like, I respect you because you want to keep yourself safe, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just finding that understanding, and not just in COVID, but just in life as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I feel a lot more intentional when I'm at work in this workspace now with finding understanding more than before.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I feel that way as well. Nina, before we have to finish up, is there anything, we did an activity together called the hand map. Is there anything from your hand map that you would like to share?
Yeah. I know I was telling you that some of these words didn't make sense. But one of them is voices. And I feel like that's just, it speaks volumes to me because we have the media, we have everyday workplace, we have ourselves, we have our families, and there's so many voices that we collect and absorb throughout the day that this experience, I feel like, should allow us to be more intentional with what we bring into our wheelhouse in our minds. Because your work is always going to be, hey, we need this now, we need this, we need it to be done like this. Oh, what do you think about that? Just all these things consecutively for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then you go home, you're on social media or you on an outlet or some type of something, and the media also has voices.
Yeah.
So to be intentional with your voice and how you use it, I think is very impactful. So I am very, very thankful to be able to have this time with you because I do feel like I'm being heard, and I do feel like the experiences that I felt throughout the pandemic is now somewhere, and maybe it gets spread in a wider sense because all of us went through something different.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing. Before we finish up, is there anything else that you would like to share with us? Maybe a story or an experience or anything on your heart before we end?
I know my case is a little different because I felt like it was very positive for me. And I hope that I know that individuals went through difficulties during the pandemic. But the bright side, in a sense, depending on your path, those 2 years, or maybe, no, those 2 weeks, that turned into 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like life never gives you a break. And those 2 months, it forced everyone to be on a break. And I really value that because now that things are kind of getting on a path again, you kind of look back and you don't get to sit and just be in a space and really appreciate it, you know? So the biggest thing coming out of COVID-19 is understanding how to be positive in grounding yourself. And I do hope that everyone else can kind of like embody and kind of see that too. Maybe.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much. I hope so too.
Yeah.
I definitely am learning.
Yeah.
So thank you. And I'm so honored to have sat with you today and heard your story.
Yes.
And heard your voice.
Thank you so
for
much.
sharing.